Hey guys, tonight we begin with a gentle, curious look at a question that has whispered through late-night conversations and quiet living rooms for decades. What happens when ordinary lives meet the extraordinary? When people tell stories of being taken, of waking with strange memories, of missing time and bright lights? Tonight we'll move slowly, carefully, and with deep respect for the people behind the stories. We'll trace the origins of the phenomenon, listen to some of the earliest and most influential accounts, and start to unfold the many ways these experiences have been understood, from personal mystery to cultural mirror and even to darker suggestions of covert agendas. Over the course of this documentary, we'll cover many areas: the early reports that seeded public imagination, the classic cases that shaped how we picture abduction, the repeating patterns and motifs that appear across decades and continents, psychological and neurological perspectives that help explain parts of the experience, the more unsettling theories that link abductions to government experiments or psychological operations, claims about hybrid programs and genetic testing, what declassified files and whistleblowers have actually said, and the way books, movies, and the internet have amplified and reshaped the narrative. We'll travel calmly through history, testimony, science, and speculation. And all along, we'll keep our pace slow and steady so you can listen, imagine, and relax. Before we settle in and begin our peaceful journey, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, only if what I share here truly resonates with you. Your support helps me create more of these videos, and if you feel like it, let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is. It's always fascinating to see the many corners of the world where we connect. Now dim the lights, make yourself comfortable, and let's ease into tonight's journey together as we explore what lies ahead. Chapter 1. The mystery begins. What are alien abductions? We begin slowly with a simple question. What do people mean when they use the words alien abduction? At its most basic, an alien abduction is an account in which an individual reports being taken, temporarily removed from their familiar surroundings, by beings they identify as non-human. These accounts often include memories or sensations of being transported, of bright or otherworldly lights, of short periods of missing time, and sometimes of medical-like examinations or strange communications. For many who tell these stories, the experience is not a flash of imagination, but a vivid sequence that shaped their life afterwards. To understand the phenomenon, it helps to remember that the language we use, the words and images, grew out of a particular historical soil. Long before the mid-20th century, cultures around the world recorded stories of strange visitors, spirits, fairies, night visitors who stole time, or beings who walked between worlds. Those older tales mattered. They provided cultural templates, motifs and images that later generations could recognize and adapt. But the word alien, the metallic craft, the grey-skinned figures with large eyes, those specific images are modern. They crystallized as communities changed their stories to fit new anxieties. The hum of radios, the glow of radar screens, and the idea that humanity had reached the heavens and could be met there. The mid-20th century became a particularly fertile time for such stories. The 1950s and 1960s were decades of dramatic change and shared unease. The Cold War pressed nations into secrecy and suspicion. The space race made the cosmos a public conversation topic, something people watched nightly on television with a mix of hope and apprehension. Atomic tests, spycraft, and clandestine programs fed an atmosphere in which hidden experiments could feel plausible, and where a sudden light in the night sky might mean something inexplicable and portentous. It's no surprise that as society looked upward, reports of strange encounters rose in tandem. The cultural backdrop, a blend of scientific triumph and political secrecy, created a space where personal strangeness could be interpreted as contact with other intelligence. Two early stories stand out as foundational because they shaped how later reports were told and perceived. First, the case of Antonio Villas-Boas in Brazil, 1957. Imagine a warm rural night beneath a wide sky. Antonio was a young farmer working late. In his account, a bright disc-shaped object hovered and then descended, bathing the land in light. He says he was taken aboard, where strange beings and environments awaited him, details he would later share. The Villas-Boas case circulated quickly in ufological circles because it was among the earlier modern narratives that described an interior examination and the feeling of being removed from the ordinary world. For listeners, such a report introduced specific imagery and language that would reappear, reinterpreted, and repeated in other accounts. Then, gently but importantly, there is the story of Betty and Barney Hill in 1961, a case that became widely known and highly influential. It began one evening when the Hills were driving home through New Hampshire, their car moving quietly along a dark road. They noticed a light in the sky. Their story unfolded with details, an encounter with a strange craft, a sense that time had slipped away, and later, under hypnosis, memories of being examined. Betty, an artist, later described seeing a star map shown to her, a detail that captured the public's imagination and led to books, interviews, and deep debate. The Hill case mattered not only because of the specifics shared, but because it reached a broad audience and helped codify certain motifs: the missing time, the detailed recollection, the use of hypnosis to recover memories that would inform many later narratives. As we speak softly about these cases, it helps to imagine not only the facts but the textures. The hush of a countryside night, the taut quiet in a car's cabin, the sensation of light washing over fields. These sensory touchstones are what make such stories feel intimate to listeners. They invite us in, not with sensationalism, but with a human closeness. People who tell these stories, whether in small-town kitchens or on broadcast microphones, are often ordinary in the most striking way: neighbours, nurses, teachers, farmers, and that ordinariness makes the extraordinary element stand out all the more. Why did these early reports capture the public imagination so completely? Part of the answer lies in timing. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, the world was newly aware that space was no longer only the stuff of science fiction. It was an arena of real competition and real possibility. Spacecraft were launched publicly, astronauts were becoming cultural figures. At the same time, governments were conducting secret projects and experimenting with technologies the public only half understood. The combination of visible scientific progress and secretive statecraft created fertile ground for speculation and concern. Another reason is narrative shape. The Hill case, the Villas-Boas account, and other early reports offered coherent stories: a beginning, a strange event, a puzzling aftermath. Humans are pattern seekers. When a story fits a recognizable arc, it spreads easily. The media of the time, newspapers, radio, and burgeoning television, were also hungry for stories that mix mystery with modernity. Once a few reports reached a broad audience, they became reference points. People began to interpret their own strange nights, dreams, or gaps in memory through those lenses. The stories did not exist in isolation. They fed one another, widened the vocabulary available to witnesses, and shaped public perception. There is also a softer, quieter dimension to consider: the emotional aftermath for those who report such encounters. For many, the experience is confusing and sometimes isolating. To say you were taken by something beyond the ordinary invites skepticism and sometimes ridicule. Those who come forward often struggle with disbelief from family or friends and the stress of having their inner world questioned. Their accounts can be one of the few ways to reclaim a sense of narrative control, to turn a strange fragmentary memory into a coherent story. In that way, the stories are also testimony, attempts to be heard and understood. As we close this first chapter, notice how many paths have begun to open from this simple starting point. We have sketched what people mean by abduction, and we have listened, calmly, to two of the earliest modern reports that shaped how the topic took root in public life. We have touched on the cultural climate of the Cold War and the space race, and the ways a few powerful stories can create a shared language for describing the ineffable. If your eyes feel heavy, that's perfectly all right. This documentary is designed to carry you gently through each idea. If you're curious to keep listening, know that in the next chapter we will meet more of the classic cases in detail, the men and women whose stories gave shape to the phenomenon and the specific recurring impressions, the lights, the paralysis, the sense of missing time that appear again and again. We'll listen to their accounts with openness and care, and we'll begin to ask what patterns emerge when many such stories are compared. Rest here for a moment. Imagine the hush of those early nights, the soft, distant hum of a world that seems both familiar and slightly altered. Let the images settle like slow, warm light across your thoughts. Chapter 2. The Classic Cases. Faces of the Unknown. We move now, slowly and quietly, into a room of stories that shape the way many people think about abduction. These are not headlines or quick anecdotes. They are careful, sometimes messy human narratives that include fear, wonder, confusion, and the slow process of trying to make sense of something uncanny. In tonight's chapter, we'll meet a few of these encounters in detail, listen to what makes them feel so vivid, and notice the patterns that draw them together. Breathe gently as you settle deeper into your chair or bed. Let the soft cadence of each story guide you like a low, steady tide. Imagine first a forested clearing in northern Arizona. The air is cool and thick with pine. Men laugh around a campfire, trading jokes under a pale sky. That is where the Travis Walton story begins on a night in 1975. In the telling, Walton was part of a small logging crew when a sudden intense light filled the clearing. He approached, curious, and a beam struck him. His friends fled, or so they said, and when they returned days later, he was gone. For 5 long days he was missing. Later he would reappear with a story of loss of time and vivid recollections of being within or near a craft, of beings and unusual environments. The case became widely publicized because of the dramatic physical disappearance, the multiple witnesses, and the emotional toll on those who awaited him. Picture the quiet panic of a circle of friends by a dwindling fire, the long hours of searching, and the relief and bewilderment when a missing person returns with a narrative that will not be easily contained. That blend of ordinary human concern, friends, families, townsfolk, and the extraordinary imagery of lights and craft made this case linger in people's imaginations. Now travel with me to a quiet lake in Maine, where one summer night in 1976 4 friends were testing the calm of night fishing and the ease of adult company. They later reported an experience that has come to be called the Allagash Abductions. Despite being seasoned, practical men, they recalled an encounter involving a strange craft, followed by a shared recollection recovered under hypnosis months later. What is striking about this account is the similarity of details among 4 separate people who were together that night. Shared memories such as these raise questions about corroboration and the ways memory can be strengthened, altered, or influenced by group dynamics. Imagine the stillness of a lake, the way voices soften in the dark, and the way a shared experience can bind people together, especially when that experience refuses to fit tidy explanations. not all iconic stories are set in rural solitude. In a bustling city, with cars and neon and the constant hum of urban life, some people have reported equally intense encounters. Consider a case in New York City during the late 1980s, when a woman named Linda Napolitano described an experience that some witnesses claimed to have seen as well. The idea of an event unfolding in a dense, noisy environment changes how we imagine abduction. It brings in the possibility of public exposure, the oddity of strange light over apartment blocks, the friction between private terror and public scene. Think of the sensation of waking to an unfamiliar pressure, or the way a city's dim glow can make something in the sky seem impossibly bright and close. The contrast between the intimacy of an abductee's subjective experience and the noisy, crowded world outside makes the story especially haunting. As we listen, pay attention to what these accounts share: the sense of bright, often focused light, the sudden, disorienting loss of time, the feeling, sometimes described in clinical tones, of paralysis or immobility, and the emotional aftermath that includes confusion, shame, fear, and sometimes a surprising resilience. Many describe a kind of medical-like examination, sensations that are physical and precise, instruments, the feeling of being prodded, observations about anatomy. For some, these memories become the axis around which later therapy and public discussion rotate. For others, the encounter leads to sleepless nights, fractured relationships, or a newfound sense of purpose in seeking answers. Another layer that makes several of these classic cases compelling is corroboration. When more than one person witnesses an event, the report gains a different weight in the public mind. Friends who return to the same scene and share overlapping memories create a narrative that feels less solitary and more communal. Yet shared memory is complex. Close-knit witnesses can influence one another's recollections, and the process of telling and retelling, through interviews, books, or hypnosis, can change the story's texture. Still, the raw human element remains. People who believe they experience something beyond ordinary, and who live afterward with the consequences of that belief. There is also the element of time and the way it is discussed by witnesses. Missing hours or whole nights are reported again and again. It is not always clear whether that time was erased, dissociated, or simply misremembered. For some, later retrieval techniques such as regression hypnosis reveal sequences of events that were previously blank. For others, the blank remains stubborn and unexplainable. Either way, the sensation of time slipping away is one of the most disquieting and recurrent motifs. It taps into a deep human fear that the fabric of our days can be unstitched in a single surreal moment. Emotionally, many abductees recount feelings of violation that are eerily similar to those reported by victims of other kinds of intrusions. There's often a sense of being observed, catalogued, or studied. Some describe compassion or benign curiosity from their perceived captors. Others report fear or coercion. These experiences can change how a person trusts their own body, their dreams, and the world around them. Partners and families sometimes struggle to believe or understand, and the social isolation that follows an extraordinary claim can be profound. Listening to these stories with empathy is essential, whether one interprets them as literal events, complex psychological episodes, or culturally mediated experiences. The human aftermath is real. Classic cases have another quiet power. They invite us to notice the ordinary details surrounding extraordinary events. The creak of a car seat, the smell of pine after rain, the way a kitchen light casts a grid across a face. These small sensory cues anchor the listener and make the experience tangible. They remind us that these narratives are not merely abstract claims. They are stories lived by people in households and fields, in towns and cities. That intimacy is why films, books, and shows have repeatedly returned to these tales. They offer a dramatic window into how fragile and porous our sense of normalcy can be. As the chapter slows toward its close, let your thoughts rest on this gentle paradox. These classic cases are both strikingly similar and stubbornly distinct. They share images, light, paralysis, missing time, yet they emerge from different corners of the world and different kinds of lives. That simultaneous unity and variety is part of what keeps people fascinated. It also sets the stage for our next exploration, where we will look for patterns across many accounts, searching for structure in the apparent chaos. We will speak softly about geography, timing, and how the same motifs can appear across cultures, raising questions about cultural transmission, shared human psychology, or something more elusive. Before we move on, picture once more those quiet places: the lake, the country road, the city street, each one holding a story that resists simple answers. Let the calmness of the night hold those stories as you drift, and know that each tale we've heard tonight is not merely sensational, but deeply human. Chapter 3: Patterns in the Phenomenon. We settle now into a quiet study of common threads that run through many abduction stories. There is a soft comfort in pattern. It gives us a way to listen carefully and to notice what repeats. As you breathe slowly, imagine laying out a map of images and feelings, bright lights, lost hours, a sense of being watched, and watching which shapes appear most often. This is not about proving anything yet. It is about gathering what people tell us again and again and learning how those pieces fit together. One pattern that appears in a great number of reports is light. People often describe a bright, focused light that seems to come from above or from a craft. Sometimes it is a beam, thin and precise. Other times it is a wide, glowing field that washes over a place. The light is not just bright, it has texture. Witnesses speak of a cold, clinical white, or a humming blue, or a warm amber that feels almost like a memory. Because nights are usually dark, that contrast makes the light feel more vivid in their minds. Think of the way a single lamp changes the whole look of a room. That is the kind of contrast many describe. Closely tied to the light is the phenomenon of missing time. Many people report that whole hours have vanished from their memory. They will say they were driving or sleeping or walking, and then they cannot account for an hour or two, or sometimes longer. Later, when they try to fill in the blank, they may find only small clues: a stopped clock, a car with a different gas level, or a watch that shows a different time. The missing hours create a hollow in the story that people feel compelled to fill. That hollow is one of the reasons regression hypnosis became popular. It seemed to offer a way to stitch the missing time back together. Another strong pattern is physical or sensory paralysis. Some witnesses describe waking or finding themselves unable to move, aware of their body but unable to shift. This paralysis can last for moments or stretch into terrifying minutes. Often, it is paired with a feeling of pressure on the chest, or a presence in the room that feels real and near. The paralysis can be frightening, but for others the experience is oddly neutral or even gentle, a mixture of fear and strange calm. Medical-like examinations are also commonly reported. Many people say they experienced probing, scans, or non-threatening checks of their bodies. The descriptions often include cold instruments, bright lights, and careful, almost mechanical movements. For those who recall such details, the memory can be clinical and precise. Some report being shown images or being asked silent questions. Others remember nothing but the feeling of being examined. These medical motifs are one reason abduction stories can feel so disarming. They touch on private vulnerability in a way that mirrors both real medical procedures and deeper emotional exposure. A recurring character in many narratives is the form of the visitor. A well-known image is that of the Grey, a small thin figure with a large head and dark eyes. Yet not all accounts describe Greys. Some witnesses tell of tall, humanoid figures, others describe light-based presences, and still others speak of more animal-like or shadowy shapes. The differences sometimes map to time or place. Certain decades had more Greys in reports, while other times featured different kinds of beings. That variability suggests that while some elements repeat, local culture, media, and personal expectations shape the details. Geography and timing also show patterns. Reports peaked in certain decades, particularly from the 1950s through the 1990s, a long stretch when interest and reporting were especially high. Some regions saw clusters of reports, while others remained quieter. Certain locations received attention because of specific cases, creating local lore that encouraged others to look for similar signs. In some instances, witnesses have reported events near military bases or nuclear sites, leading to questions about whether secret testing, guard activity, or high-security environments had any role in the reports. Whether these geographic links mean anything definitive is still debated, but they are part of the map we trace. Across cultures, people sometimes describe experiences that sound very similar. Being taken at night, sensing bright lights, waking with unexplained marks or memories. In older folklore, storytellers spoke of night visitors or changeling tales where a person or child is taken and replaced. Those older stories share a feeling with modern accounts, a sudden, unexplainable break in ordinary life. This similarity invites a gentle question. Are modern abduction stories a new form of a very old human motif? Or are they something distinct, shaped by modern technology and modern fears? Perhaps both. The human mind has long used story to explain what shocks it, and these narratives may be new clothes on an old wound. There are also patterns in how people remember and then share their stories. Many accounts are not told all at once. Memories often come in pieces, sometimes years after the event, triggered by a smell, a dream, or a conversation. The practice of going to a therapist or hypnotist to recover missing memories became common among those seeking explanations. That process can create vivid, detailed recollections, but it can also introduce suggestion. When someone asks questions in a certain way, memories can change. Group interviews, books, and media can further shape the tale. This is why researchers often look carefully at how memories were recovered and how much time passed between an event and its telling. Another pattern is the emotional aftermath. Regardless of how the event is interpreted, people commonly report fear, confusion, and sometimes a profound shift in their sense of self. Some become activists, searching for others with similar stories. Others retreat, carrying the event as a secret. Many report sleep disturbances, anxiety, and altered relationships. Whether the cause is external or internal, the human cost is real and deserves kindness and attention. Finally, there is the pattern of overlap between different explanations. Some parts of the stories map well onto known sleep phenomena, such as sleep paralysis, hypnagogic hallucinations, or vivid dreams. Other parts, physical marks, multiple witnesses, instrument readings, push listeners toward considering other possibilities. The patterns do not all point in one direction. Instead, they form a web of clues, some of which fit known shapes, and some of which remain puzzling. As you breathe in this gentle information, imagine a soft net of light spreading over the field of reports, catching the repeated shapes and letting the single, odd ones move through. We are collecting motifs now, not to force them into a single explanation, but to understand the language these stories use. In the next chapter, we will turn inward toward the human mind and brain. and explore how sleep, memory, suggestion, and trauma can create experiences that feel utterly real. We will not dismiss anyone's experience. We will only try to see how ordinary mind functions can weave extraordinary narratives. If your eyes are slipping closed, let them rest. If you're still quietly curious, know that richer detail and more stories await. Stay with the calm rhythm of the night and the slow uncovering of each idea. Chapter 4. The Human Mind. Psychological and Neurological Theories. We now turn inward to the quiet, complicated place where mind and body meet. This chapter asks gentle, careful questions about how the brain can make a night feel like a whole other world. We do this not to dismiss the people who tell their stories, but to better understand the many ways ordinary brain processes can create vivid, true-feeling experiences. Breathe slowly and let the ideas come in like soft waves. Each idea is a small lamp to help us see different parts of the same room. Start with sleep. Sleep is not always a smooth, blank thing. It is a landscape where different parts of the brain take turns leading. Sometimes during the edges of sleep, people can feel awake and yet still be partly in a dream. These moments can be filled with strange sights, sounds, or feelings that seem as real as anything you lived in the day. Scientists call some of these moments hypnagogic or hypnopompic hallucinations, but here we can simply think of them as dream-like images that happen as we fall asleep or wake up. They can be calm or they can be terrifying. They can include the sense of a heavy presence in the room, the feeling of being watched, bright lights, or a subtle pressure on the chest. For someone living through this, the experience can be as convincing as a true event. Close to these sleep edges is sleep paralysis. Picture this. You wake and try to move, but your body will not obey. You are aware and you can think, but your arms and legs feel glued to the mattress. People often describe it as one of the scariest moments of their lives. In that fixed stillness, the mind can fill the gap with images, shapes at the foot of the bed, a dark figure by the window, or a bright light moving over the room. The sensations reported during sleep paralysis overlap in many ways with classic abduction reports. Immobility, a sense of presence, bright lights, a feeling of being examined. Because these are common, natural parts of sleep for some people, many researchers see a connection between sleep phenomena and some abduction experiences. Memory is another key part of the picture. Memory is not a perfect tape recorder. It is more like a storybook that we keep editing. When something strange happens, an odd dream, a mysterious blank in the day, a sudden mark on the body, we naturally try to make a story that fits the pieces. Sometimes the mind fills in missing parts with images that feel right. Other times, talking with a friend or reading a book or hearing a TV story can plant images that later seem like they were always ours. This is not meant to blame anyone. It is simply how memory and imagination often work together. That is where hypnosis and regression work enter the scene. Some therapists used hypnosis to help people remember missing time. The idea was that by guiding someone into a relaxed, open state, hidden memories might surface. For some, the process brought relief and a sense of closure. For others, the images recovered under hypnosis were shaped in part by the questions asked, by the stories the therapist had heard before, or by the cultural images the person carried. When a memory is formed under suggestion, it can feel as real as any other memory. The debate over hypnosis became a deep and sometimes heated one. Some researchers argued it helped find genuine experiences, while others warned it could create false memories that felt utterly real. Two figures often appear in these debates. One worked closely with many subjects, collecting detail after detail and treating those accounts as important evidence. Another came from a different field and spoke publicly about how seriously he took people's experiences, emphasizing the real emotional and psychological impact without insisting on a single literal explanation. Their conversations were not simple arguments. They were a broader conversation about how best to listen to and care for people who are deeply shaken by an event. We mention them here to show how divided the scientific and medical worlds became, not because one side wanted to dismiss people, but because both sides wanted to protect truth in different ways. Trauma and stress also play a role. When someone goes through shock or a frightening event, the brain can change how it stores that moment. People who have been in accidents or who have had medical emergencies sometimes report disjointed memories, fragments that do not line up. The same can happen with emotional trauma. When fear is high, the body and mind can use certain defenses, like dissociation, to keep pain at a distance. Dissociation is a quiet retreat of the mind. It can create gaps in memory and changes in perception that later feel confusing or unreal. In some abduction narratives, people describe feelings that echo dissociation, a sense of watching rather than fully living, a split between the self that is aware and the self that is acted upon. There are also neurological explanations that offer simple physical accounts. For instance, certain parts of the brain, when they behave unusually, can produce intense, meaningful experiences. Tiny electrical disturbances in a part of the brain sometimes lead to vivid visions or the strong sense of being touched. These events can be brief and leave no trace in the body. To someone living through it, the moment can be experientially complete and unforgettable. That is why doctors sometimes explore neurological tests when a report includes odd physical sensations without a clear explanation. Psychology also points to group dynamics and how stories spread. People who are friends, neighbours, or members of the same group can influence each other's memories. A piece of information shared at a dinner or online can sit quietly, then surface when someone needs an image to make sense of a strange night. The internet and books magnify this effect now. An image or phrase can move around the world in seconds and become part of someone's private map of possible meanings. All of this does not mean the experiences are not real to those who live them. Realness and fact are not always the same. People can have real pain, real fear, and real life changes from experiences that have many causes: sleep, brain states, stress, and social influence. To honour those people, it helps to hold two things at once: the reality of their feelings and the possibility that many ordinary brain processes can create extraordinary moments. To bring the ideas closer to home, imagine a case study without names. A woman wakes in the night, feels heavy, cannot move, and senses a bright white light. She struggles to breathe and thinks someone is in the room. The next morning she finds a small mark on her arm. The experience terrifies her. She tells a friend, reads a few stories, and later, under hypnosis, remembers being lifted into a craft and examined. The memory is vivid, right down to the smell of the room and the taste in her mouth. Did she meet beings from another world? Or did a string of sleep paralysis, a stress response, and suggestive questioning weave together into a complete story? The answer can be both simple and complex. The experience was real for her, and the causes may be a mix of brain states, memory formation, and cultural context. As we end this chapter, notice the gentle lesson here. The human mind is both fragile and powerful. It can conjure entire worlds while also keeping us safe through defense and forgetting. Understanding this helps us listen with care. We do not need to dismiss feelings to seek explanations. Instead, we can offer curiosity and compassion together. In the next chapter, we will shift our attention outward, toward the political and the secretive. the idea that some abduction stories might fit into larger patterns of control or deception. We will ask what evidence exists for deliberate manipulation, and how history of secrecy and covert projects could make those theories feel plausible. For now, let your breath slow. Hold in mind the quiet image of a calm night and the warmth of a lamp left on in a safe room. Chapter 5: PsyOps and Mind Control, a Hidden Agenda. We now move into a quieter, more shadowed part of the map. This chapter asks a careful, soft question that many people have whispered for decades. What if some of these strange stories were not only personal mysteries but also tools? Stories used, shaped, or even planted for other aims? We will walk through the ideas slowly, with respect for those who lived through odd events and for the deep, sometimes painful trust people place in the truth. Breathe in slowly and let us step together into this low light. The world of intelligence and secret projects has its own long history. Governments have sometimes performed tests and experiments in ways they kept secret for reasons of security. Those real, documented programs, the things that later came into the light, are part of why some people find mind control or secret operation ideas plausible. When a government keeps a secret, it creates a gap that stories can fill. In that gap, some imagine experiments on the mind, tests of new technologies, or ways to hide a sensitive program behind a tale of something stranger still. One well-known example often mentioned when people talk about manipulation is a series of programs that occurred under the name MKUltra. In this broad area of work, the idea of experimenting with memory, suggestion, and altered states was explored by intelligence services in the mid-20th century. Some experiments involved hypnosis, drugs, and techniques meant to influence how people think or remember. The history of those programs is real and documented, and it helps explain why people worry that memory and suggestion could be artificially produced or guided. When a field of research already exists that plays with human memory and suggestion, the thought that some abduction memories might be influenced by outside hands becomes less far-fetched for many. Around that thread of worry comes another idea: the use of popular myth as a cover. In this way of thinking, if an agency wanted to hide the true nature of a secret project, they might let people tell a story that seemed fantastical, the kind that would be laughed at or dismissed in polite circles. By tying an experiment to a myth, secrecy could be preserved. A scientist testing a new device near a base might later be described as an alien by a witness whose memory was confused. The myth becomes a veil, and curious strangers are sent down a path of speculation, while the real activity remains unseen. This is a theory that has great appeal because it reuses the culture's own stories as camouflage. People also point to patterns in where some events happen. There are accounts of strange lights or odd reports near military bases, nuclear facilities, and testing grounds. For those who connect the dots, the question becomes, were some of these events truly otherworldly, or were they instead linked to secret exercises, new radar systems, or classified craft? We must be careful here. Not every report near a base proves anything, and often official explanations are unavailable or unsatisfying. But the mere coincidence of secrecy and strange reports feeds the imagination and fuels further questions. Then there are the more dramatic claims, stories that speak of mind control, of memory erasure, of staged encounters meant to study how people respond. These claims sometimes draw on the MKUltra history, on reports from people who felt their memories had been changed, and on the testimony of those who claim to have seen equipment or procedures that felt deliberate and clinical. Some who have been drawn to these ideas talk about psychological operations, or PsyOps, where information is shaped to produce a reaction in a population. In wartime, PsyOps are an acknowledged tool. Messages, stories, and images are used to sway hearts and minds. The question is whether similar techniques were ever used in ways that touched ordinary civilians through the mechanism of a myth like alien abduction. The idea is unsettling, and we explore it only to understand why it has grip. Stories from alleged insiders and whistleblowers add another layer. Over the years, some people have stepped forward claiming inside knowledge of classified programs, secret files, or suppressed evidence. Their accounts are varied. Some say they saw strange crafts that were actually human-made prototypes. Others say they were asked to keep quiet about testing near local communities. A few speak in broader, more sweeping terms about cover-ups and deliberate disinformation. The presence of such voices is important because they offer a counterpoint to simple explanations. They remind us that secrecy, when real, has consequences and can breed suspicion. At the same time, insiders' claims are sometimes hard to verify. Without clear documentation, each claim sits like a small ship in fog, visible, but not always easy to reach. There are also named programs and alleged documents that often come up in these conversations. Some people reference old government projects that investigated unidentified aerial phenomena, or they speak of supposed secret committees and files that may or may not have existed. These names and documents become part of the narrative landscape. For some listeners, they act like anchors, proof that something official has taken interest. For others, they are more like sirens, enticing but unclear. The truth often lies complicated between these poles, with parts that are recorded and parts that remain rumour. A related worry is the mixing of truth and theatre. In some cases, deliberate misinformation can be useful to an agency that wants to hide a technical project. If a prototype craft looks odd, the easiest cultural cover might be to let people call it alien. In other cases, a false lead might be spread to distract public attention from a more ordinary but sensitive experiment. The more we consider how information can be shaped, the more we see how real this danger is. It's also why people are drawn to the idea that some abductions could have been encouraged or manipulated in the service of other ends. Yet we must hold a balanced view. Many cases of alleged manipulation can also be explained by confusion, fear, and the normal human tendency to make sense of odd events. Not every strange memory is evidence of a plan. Often the simpler explanations, sleep phenomena, misidentified craft, honest mistakes, fit. But the historical reality of secret programs and the documented harms that can come from experiments on people without consent keep the question open and worthy of careful thought. We should also remember the human cost in this shadowed terrain. When people believe they were manipulated or used, the sense of violation can deepen. Trust in institutions frays, relationships suffer, and the person at the centre may feel doubly harmed, first by an event and then by the suspicion that no one will truly investigate. For many who tell such stories, the hurt is real regardless of the cause. A compassionate approach listens, seeks evidence, and recognises the pain whether the origin is psychological, human-made, or something else. As we finish this chapter, picture a calm room, a dim desk lamp, and a stack of worn papers. Some of those papers are official and clear, others are letters, rumours, or notes passed in whispers. In the space between are the possibilities, real experiments that left marks, misunderstandings that grew into myth, and deliberate efforts to hide the truth. We move through this space slowly, not to accuse, but to hold open the range of what might be. The possibility of PsyOps and mind control is a heavy idea, and even the hint of it can make the quiet night feel colder. Yet the notion also asks us to be thoughtful, to demand records, to seek transparency, and to treat unusual claims with both curiosity and rigour. If you are still with me, let the soft questions rest for a moment. In the next chapter, we will explore another deeply unsettling theme: claims that alien visitors sought biological ties to humans, the idea of hybrid programs and genetic experiments. We will speak calmly about those accounts, their weight, and the reasons they circulate. Chapter 6: Hybrid Programs and Genetic Experiments. We move now into a chapter that asks a quiet, careful question. What if some of the stories are not only about being taken, but about being used in a different way, as part of something that looks like a long experiment on bodies and blood, and the slow work of making something new? This idea can feel heavy and even frightening, so we will walk through it slowly, with respect for those who carry such memories, and for the many ways people try to make sense of them. Breathe slowly and let the scene settle like fog over a calm lake. Many abductees over the years have shared details that sound, on first hearing, both strange and specific. They speak of samples taken, tiny bits of tissue, skin, or fluid, sometimes without obvious pain, sometimes with the sterile feel of a clinic. They tell of lights and devices that seem to study cells and chromosomes, of instruments humming softly as if reading a body's script. They speak of questions asked without words, a sense that someone or something was studying them, not just for a night, but like a scientist reading a notebook. For some people, those memories led to a larger story. The idea that an outside intelligence was trying to blend with humanity, to produce beings that were partly human and partly other. The name that often rises in these conversations is hybrid program. A researcher who spent years listening to abductees argued that many witnesses described similar themes: forced breeding, visits to hidden rooms, and children who are claimed to be part human and part something else. These accounts are vivid. People have told of being shown children who looked ordinary, except for quiet differences, an odd glance, a very still way of moving, an otherness that makes you look twice. For those who remember such things, the implications are personal and painful. They ask about consent, about families, and about who watches over children who may be growing in secret. Imagine, gently, the confusion of a parent who wakes to a memory of a small child and cannot say whether the child was ever real or whether the memory has been shaped by fear, dreams, or suggestion. The human weight of that uncertainty stays with you. At the center of these stories are both vivid detail and deep doubt. Some researchers collected many accounts that appear to line up, different people reporting similar experiments, similar terms, similar images of rooms and devices. For listeners, that kind of agreement can feel like evidence, the same small pieces appearing in different stories. For skeptics, the similarity can be explained differently. Once an image or idea becomes part of the culture through books, interviews, or movies, it can show up again in private memories. Which view is right? The answer may not be only one or the other. The truth could be a mixture of shared imagery, real but misunderstood events, and powerful psychological processes that shape memory. There are also touching human elements in these reports. Some people describe their children or relatives as being changed in subtle ways over time. They report a child who's unusually calm, or who grows faster than expected, or who seems to carry habits that are hard to explain. Those stories lead to worry and care, parents seeking help, doctors trying to find a diagnosis, families searching for community. Whether the cause is genetic, environmental, or something unnamed, the worry is the same. People want answers for the health and safety of the ones they love. The idea of genetic study or hybrid work also touches on deep moral and ethical feelings. The image of someone taking samples without consent of a body used as a test site hits at a core fear about dignity and choice. In the human history we know, there are real cases where people were experimented on without consent. Those dark chapters make the stories we hear now more believable at an emotional level, even if we do not have proof that such experiments occurred on the scale some recall. We know enough about past mistreatment to understand why people suspect something similar could be happening. That memory of real harm is part of why these claims strike so deep. At the same time, there are many simpler explanations to consider. Medical marks can come from normal procedures, from accidents, or from conditions that do not relate to any outside hand. People can misremember the timing of medical visits or mix dreams with waking life. When memories are recovered after years or under methods prone to suggestion, the details can become layered with images from books or television. The mind stitches together a narrative from the pieces it has. That process does not make the pain any less real. It simply offers a broader view of how memory works. Researchers who study these claims often ask for evidence that can be tested. Physical samples, medical records, photographs taken near the time, or consistent physical signs that repeat in independent cases. These are hard to come by. Bodies change, records are lost, and memories fade. Yet some families keep careful notes and some individuals report physical traces that they took to doctors. The lack of easy, clear evidence does not remove the human feeling at the centre of the stories. It only makes the question harder to answer. There is another layer here that moves away from fear and more toward quiet speculation. Some who listen to abductees talk about the idea that hybrid programs are not evil plots but slow, curious projects, attempts at contact, attempts to bridge life forms, or attempts to solve biological puzzles. In that gentle view, the beings are not monsters but other minds trying to learn. That framing changes the tone. It shifts from a horror story to a strange tale of two life forms trying to speak. For many listeners, that change in tone also makes the story more bearable. It allows room for wonder amid the worry. We must also ask what a claim like this does to a community. Stories about hybrids often spread in tight networks of people who have been harmed or frightened. Those networks can offer support, listening, and resources, but they can also trap people in feedback loops where fear grows with each new shared detail. That is why careful, compassionate care matters. People need to be heard, and they also need help that is grounded in health and in science when possible. A balance of empathy and critical thinking is the kindest response. As this chapter gently winds down, imagine a quiet room where someone keeps a small box of notes and photos. Some items in the box are clear, like hospital bracelets or old Polaroids. Others are vague scribbles and faded ticket stubs. The combination of solid things and shadows is what many families carry. We cannot force a single meaning on those items. Instead, we hold them up to the light slowly, looking for grain and thread, listening for echoes. In the next chapter, we will step toward official worlds, what governments and agencies have said, what files have been opened, and what the public record reveals about unknown aerial events and possible experiments. For now, let the image of those small boxes rest in your hands like a soft stone, heavy with memory but smoothed by time. Chapter 7. Government Secrets and Disclosure. We turn now to a quieter, more formal world. The world of offices, files, committees, and the slow, careful work of people who keep records. This chapter asks what the official world might hold about strange events, and how those small locked rooms of power can shape what the public knows. We'll walk through these ideas gently, and I will share a small story near the middle to hold the themes close and human. Breathe softly, and let the steady rhythm of the voice guide you. Many people who study abduction reports want to know one clear thing. What do governments know? The idea is simple and powerful. If official agencies have records of strange craft, unexplained incidents, or experiments near certain sites, then those records could change what the public believes. On the other hand, governments are built to protect some things, to keep secrets for reasons they call safety or national interest. The mix of real secrecy and real discovery creates a tension that many find hard to live with. It is in this gap that rumour, hope, and fear all find a place to grow. Over time, governments have released some documents and kept others. Sometimes files are declassified and placed in public archives. Other times, records are redacted, or whole boxes remain out of reach for years. The process can feel slow, almost like watching a tide that moves in tiny inches. For families and witnesses, that slowness is painful. They want answers now. For agencies, the pace is cautious, measured by laws, national security concerns, and procedures. The contrast between a person's urgent need to know and the long calendar of bureaucracy creates many of the small dramas we see in this field. There is also the work of investigators inside and outside government. Some government offices were set up to look at strange aerial reports, to measure them, to decide if they are a safety risk or a threat. Researchers in those offices sometimes write careful, dry notes that later become important when the public asks questions. Outside groups, journalists, historians, and volunteers spend years reading boxes of paper, filing Freedom of Information requests, and making phone calls to trace a lead. This quiet, slow act of looking is how many surprising things come to light. Let me tell you a story now. It is not a headline story. It is a small, human one, but it carries the texture of a truth many of us feel when we think about secrets and time. There once was a woman named Rosa who worked in a government archive. She was gentle and steady, the kind of person who liked order and the soft hush of paper. Her job was to handle old files, to read through stacks, and to sort things into neat piles. One autumn day, as rain whispered against the windows, she found a box that did not belong where it had been put. Someone had misfiled it years earlier. Inside were letters, a small booklet of flight logs, and a few photographs faded at the edges. The photos showed lights in the night sky above a small airfield. The logs had short notes. Unknown object observed. 2 witnesses. Radar returned noise. The items were not dramatic. There was no smoking gun, no clear proof of anything. But to Rosa, who had spent long hours building order out of clutter, the misfiled box felt like a tiny door that had been left slightly open. She did something simple and brave. She made copies of the pages she could, wrote a careful note, and passed the copy to a young reporter who visited the archive now and then. The reporter, moved by the quiet weight of the papers, wrote a short piece about an old little-known incident. The story did not explode into the world. Instead, it became a seed. People who had once lived near the airfield read it, and slowly others came forward with their own small pieces, a memory here, a sketch there. A community of stories began to form around the old flight logs. For those who had never known the papers existed, the misfiled box was a new mirror. It reflected a moment they had almost forgotten. Rosa kept working in the archive, unnoticed and content. She never became famous, yet her small act, noticing, copying, and passing along, helped bring a clearer picture to light. The story shows how disclosure often begins not with a grand report, but with a gentle person doing simple, careful work. It is a quiet reminder that truth can unfold in small steps, and that those small steps can matter deeply to the people who have been waiting. Beyond small stories like Rosa's, there are formal moments when questions about strange events become public. Sometimes witnesses are called to speak to panels or committees. Sometimes hearings are held where a person can stand and say what they remember. Those moments are part truth-seeking and part theatre. They give witnesses a place to be heard. They also put the conversation in the open, where more people can look and ask questions. When this happens, memories and records meet public attention, and momentum can build for further disclosure. The call for disclosure, the push to declassify more documents, to publish more reports, to be open about what was seen, comes from many places. Families seek closure. Scientists seek data. Citizens seek accountability. For some, disclosure is a moral demand. If something happened, the public has the right to know. For others, it is a matter of safety. If unknown craft can appear in the skies, air controllers and pilots need to be warned. The reasons vary, but the feeling behind them is similar. A wish for clarity and honesty. At the same time, disclosure can be complicated. Papers may be redacted to hide names, dates, or technologies. Files may be incomplete. Memories may not match the official record. For people who have both strong memory and a deep desire for proof, these partial records can be frustrating. They can also fuel suspicion, especially when files appear to contradict witness accounts. That friction between private memory and public record is one of the persistent rhythms in this topic. Another layer comes from the role of whistleblowers. People who once worked inside an institution and later decide to speak out. Their voices can be powerful because they carry the weight of having been inside. Yet whistleblowers also face risk and often have to provide strong evidence to be fully believed. The public response to a whistleblower sometimes depends on who they were, what role they had, and whether others can confirm their story. Still, these voices matter because they break a pattern of silence and push institutions to explain themselves. Through all of this, the public conversation changes. Books, small films, and online forums gather the scattered pieces and create places for people to meet. Some communities gather to support witnesses and families. Others form around skepticism, trying to test claims and seek alternative explanations. The growing mix of voices helps the field mature. It makes room for both careful doubt and heartfelt belief. That balance, the tension between wanting to know and wanting to be careful, is where many good questions live. As we close this chapter, feel the calm weight of patience. Records open slowly. People speak bravely. Little acts like roses can shift what we think we know. The archive of the world is full of misfiled boxes and quiet clerks. Over time, small truths can gather into something clearer. Whether disclosure brings definitive proof or only more questions, the act of opening doors helps communities heal. It gives families a place to stand, and it honours the slow work of finding facts. In the next chapter, we will shift outward once again to consider how these stories shape a culture. The books we read, the films we watch, and the images that live in our dreams. We will see how media and art both reflect and shape the way we imagine the unknown. Chapter 8: Cultural Impact and Media Influence. We slow down now and listen to the quiet ways stories change a world. This chapter is about how books, films, television, and more recently the internet shape the way people see strange events. Stories do more than inform. They give us pictures to hold in our minds. They teach us what to expect when we wake from a dream or see a light in the sky. As you breathe gently, imagine a warm room with a soft lamp. On the table is a stack of stories, some old, some new, each one leaving a small mark on the pages of the next story to be told. Think first of books and movies. A single image on a screen or a scene in a book can enter the mind like a song that refuses to leave. When a film shows a craft with a humming light, or when a book describes small figures with large eyes, those images slip into the pool of pictures people use to explain strange nights. For many people, The first time they meet the image of a grey alien is on a page or a screen. Later, when something odd happens, that image can rise quickly in the mind and shape the memory of the event. This is not to say that movies make people lie. Rather, art gives language and shape to feelings that were already there. It supplies metaphors and a shared visual world. Television shows have a special power because they reach into living rooms across a country. A show that treats the idea of contact with calm seriousness can make the subject feel less frightening and more worth talking about. A show that treats it like a joke can make people hide their stories. Both kinds of treatment change how many people respond when something odd happens. The X-Files is one clear example of a show that opened the door to public talk. It mixed mystery with human stories and invited people to ask questions rather than simply laugh. When a show becomes part of the culture, it also creates a space where people can meet others who are curious or concerned. That shared space matters because it gives voice to private experiences. Print media and news stories do something different. Newspapers and magazines often look for stories that make readers turn the page. That can cause some reports to be short and sharp, focusing on the oddest moments. But long pieces in trusted magazines can slow the pace, giving witnesses room to speak and readers space to feel. When a careful article appears, people who had kept their memories quiet sometimes feel safe enough to step forward. In that way, good journalism can create a real change. It can bring buried stories into the light and help communities respond. The internet has changed everything in quiet, steady ways. Forums, message boards, and social media let people meet others who had similar nights. A person who once felt alone after a strange event can now find a group within hours. That connection can be a balm. It can also be a mirror. When people read each other's stories, details can move from one person's memory into another's. Online spaces can help people find real comfort and resources, but they can also magnify fear if the group leans toward alarm. The web is both a library and an echo chamber. It stores old images and repeats them back, sometimes louder than before. There is a feedback loop between media and memory that is gentle but strong. A book or film shapes what people remember, and then those memories feed the next book or film. Artists listen to witnesses, and witnesses listen to artists. Over time, certain images become central. The grey figure, the bright beam, the missing hours. These motifs stick because they're useful, strong images that show up again and again. They're easy to tell and easy to hold on to. That makes the stories easier to remember and easier to pass on. Stories do more than shape memory, they shape identity. For some people, telling a story of a strange night becomes part of who they are. They find purpose in sharing, in helping others, and in searching for answers. For others, a story can be a heavy secret that isolates them. How culture treats these stories, with ridicule, curiosity, or care, affects whether people step forward or stay quiet. When art treats a witness with dignity, it can help them heal. When art mocks them, it can drive them away. Let me tell you a small story now. It is about a young filmmaker named Marco who lived in a quiet coastal town. Marco was not famous. He had a small camera and a patient way of listening. One winter, an old local man came to him with a story about a night years before when a bright light had hung over the shoreline. The man was humble and gentle. He didn't want headlines. He wanted his neighbours to know. Marco made a short, slow film. He filmed the sea at dusk, the gulls circling, the man speaking softly about memory and the smell of salt. He used long takes and held space for silence. When the film was shown at a small community night, something unexpected happened. People who had felt alone began to talk. A woman stood up and said she remembered a light on the same night and a smell she could not place. A fisherman said he had once seen a shape that he never liked to name. The film did not make grand claims. It offered a safe place to share. In the weeks that followed, the town held quiet meetings where people traded memories and found that they were not alone. Some went to doctors together. Others wrote down what they had never said. Marco's small film had done something larger than he had planned. It made a space for community. The town didn't solve the mystery of the light, but people felt lighter for having told their stories. That small tale shows how media can be gentle medicine. Art can create room for conversation and healing. It can also bring stories into a clearer public view so that they can be looked at with care. Not every film or book will have that quiet success, but many small works have changed the lives of individuals simply by giving them a voice. At the same time, there are dangers. Sensational stories can scare people unnecessarily. Films that show only horror can make nights feel darker. Online threads that encourage fear without evidence can make communities distrustful and anxious. When media feeds panic, it can make it harder for people to find calm and help. That is why balanced media, stories that hold many truths at once and that treat witnesses with kindness, are so valuable. Finally, we should notice how cultural change changes the stories themselves. As images shift, so do memories. When a new movie shows a different kind of visitor, some accounts may start to include that new vision. When a new app can track sleep and dreams, people may notice sleep patterns that change how they interpret a night. Technology, art, and memory are braided together. Each thread pulls on the others. As we close this chapter, picture a quiet table under a lamp. On it are books with dog-eared pages, a small stack of old film reels, and a laptop open to a calm forum where people share stories at a slow pace. Culture is not a force from above. It is a shared space where people meet, tell, and listen. Stories shape lives, and lives shape stories. In the next chapter, we will move gently into the present day to see how abduction reports look in the age of smartphones, social media, and new science. Chapter 9. The Modern Era. Real Encounters in the 21st Century. We step now into the present, into a world lit by screens and humming with connection. The way people tell their stories has changed a great deal. Where once memories were shared at kitchen tables or in small community halls, now they can appear on a phone screen and circle the globe in an instant. This chapter listens gently to how abduction stories have changed in the age of smartphones, social media, and new technology. Breathe slowly and let the quiet rhythm of the voice hold you steady as we move through new shapes of the same old questions. First, the tools of the modern world have changed what counts as evidence. A smartphone in a pocket can record a light, a shape, a strange sound. A shaky clip shared online can bring attention quickly and draw others who say they saw something similar. That speed has two soft edges. On one side, it helps witnesses find support fast. A person who once might have felt alone can now find others in hours. On the other side, the quick spread of clips and posts can also spread confusion. A video can be edited, a sound can be misheard, and images can be taken out of context. The modern world gives us more pieces, but it also asks us to be careful about how we put those pieces together. At the same time, new technology has changed what people feel in their bodies. Sleep tracking apps, wearable devices, and noise machines give people more tools to measure the night. Sometimes these tools confirm what someone already felt. The body recorded a moment of wakefulness or an unusual heart rate. Other times, the data shows nothing unusual and leaves the person with a feeling that cannot be easily explained. The gadgets offer new clues, but they do not always close the case. They become another way to ask, gently, what happened. Another modern thread is the way online communities shape memory and meaning. Forums and social platforms let people share long testimonies, voice notes, and photos. Those spaces can be safe havens where people find therapy-style support and practical advice. They can also become echo chambers where a certain image or phrase is repeated so often that it moves from a report into a kind of shared myth. That repetition can comfort some and confuse others. The web holds both tenderness and noise, and careful listeners learn to look for both. New technology has also brought new fears. Some people worry about electromagnetic interference, about secret tests of drones, about surveillance equipment that could produce sensations or lights without clear explanation. Others worry about the psychological effects of living in a world where images are constant, and where AI can generate convincing but false scenes. The idea that something fake could be made to look real is a modern fear, and it shapes how people respond to footage and stories. We live in a time when trust must be earned, and proof must be weighed with a clear eye. Yet there are new forms of witness too. Pilots, air traffic controllers, and commuters with dash cams sometimes report or record odd objects. When trained observers document something strange, it changes how the public hears a story. Professional testimony can push a conversation towards safety questions. If an object is in a busy flight path, we need to know whether it could cause harm. In that sense, modern reports are not only about wonder, they're about practical, everyday safety. Let me tell you a small story that shows how the modern era can change a memory and how a community can come together. There was a teacher named Amara who lived in a small town on the edge of a wide plain. One late summer night, she stepped out to close a window and saw a thin, pulsing line of light move slowly across the sky. She grabbed her phone and filmed for a minute, though her hands shook. The clip was soft and grainy, but it showed a moving light that didn't blink like a plane. The next morning, she posted the video in a local group simply to ask if anyone knew what it might be. Within an hour, neighbours replied. One man said he'd seen something similar 2 nights earlier in a different part of town. A teenager posted a clearer clip that showed a shape that moved oddly, and a farmer remembered lights over his field at midnight. The video spread beyond the town. Amateur trackers, people who like to study sky footage, began to compare the clips, noting small patterns. Some thought it was a new kind of drone test. Others thought it might be a comet fragment. A few whispered about the old stories of the region. Through the calm conversation that followed, the town organised a quiet meeting in the library where people shared notes and checked cameras. No final answer came. A few months later, a utility company announced testing of a harmless light instrument in the region that matched some details. For some, that explanation felt satisfying. For others, the memory of the pulsing line remained tinged with wonder. Amara's story shows the mix that often appears today: a grainy clip, many witnesses, a rush of online interest, and a small official explanation that helps some and leaves others quietly curious. It also shows the helpfulness of community care. People came together to listen and to find practical answers. The modern world can be messy, fast, and kind all at once. Another modern turn is the way science and technology suggest new explanations. Some researchers look at how sound waves, infrasound, or certain light frequencies can cause physical sensations that people describe as pressure or unease. Others look at how stress and the constant glow of screens can alter sleep patterns and make dream states more likely. AI and machine learning now help analyze large sets of reports to find patterns that were invisible before. These tools do not give final answers, but they help guide careful study. Finally, the modern era has changed the way people seek help. There are more therapists who know about sleep disorders, more online resources for people suffering from trauma, and more communities that offer practical support. For someone who wakes in the night and feels frightened, having a place to go for calm, expert help can make a huge difference. In that quiet help, the modern world shows its best face. As this chapter closes, let your thoughts rest on the soft image of a phone screen glowing in a dim room, recording a small sliver of night. Technology gives us new ways to see and new ways to be seen. It can make things clearer, and it can also leave questions. In the next chapter, we will gather the threads we have followed so far and ask the great question: are abductions real events, or are they engineered PsyOps? We will hold both possibilities and listen calmly to what each might mean. Chapter 10. The Great Question: Real or PsyOp? We come now to the quiet centre of our journey, the soft place where two great ideas meet. Some people hear abduction stories and feel certain they describe meetings with other minds from beyond Earth. Others hear the same stories and see evidence of human-made tricks, secret tests, or psychological shaping. Both views carry weight, and both carry questions. Tonight we will lay both possibilities on the table gently, one by one, and listen to what each idea tells us about the world and about ourselves. Breathe slowly. Let each thought arrive like a slow ripple on a still pond. Start with a straightforward idea. Some events might be truly unexplained in a way that points outward, towards something not of our world. People who hold this view point to cases with physical traces, multiple independent witnesses, and details that are hard to explain by sleep or psychology alone. They say that bright lights, odd radar returns, and sudden verified gaps in time suggest something that moves through our skies and touches our lives in ways we do not yet understand. For those who feel this is the most likely path, the mystery is thrilling and urgent. It asks us to widen our view of life and to consider that other kinds of intelligence might be closer than we thought. Now consider the other path, that some abduction stories are the result of very human forces, not aliens, but human design. Under this idea, secret programs, hidden experiments, and deliberate misinformation could create memories or events that later look like contact. Histories of unethical experiments in the past give weight to this view. Techniques that alter memory, tests with strange machines, and the temptation to hide sensitive technologies behind myths all make the PsyOp idea plausible to many. If true, the story is not about distant visitors, but about human choices and the harm they can cause when secrecy goes too far. Both views, when held without care, can lead to harm. If every story is assumed to be extraterrestrial, we risk missing human causes that could be fixed, like medical problems or social harms. If every story is assumed to be a PsyOp, we risk dismissing real strangeness that might need careful study. The Kinder path holds both ideas at once. Some encounters may be best explained by the outer possibility, and some by the inner. The truth may be mixed, shifting from one case to the next. Holding both possibilities is not a weakness. It is a way of staying open while also asking for evidence. Let me tell you a small story to hold these ideas close. There was a man named Elias who lived in a town with a quiet airfield. Elias had once been a radar technician and had a careful mind. One summer night, he and his neighbour watched a strange light glide above the runway. Elias recorded a short clip and noted an odd blip on his old scanner. Later, under calm questioning and with a friend present, Elias described a feeling of being watched and a fuzzy gap in his memory of 30 minutes. He could not explain why his heart had raced, or why a small circular mark appeared on his forearm the next day. Elias held two strong urges. One part of him wanted to find an alien meaning. He read accounts, watched interviews, and felt the pull of a larger possibility. Another part of him remembered the old projects he had once heard about in the field, secret tests of new craft, radar experiments, and small drones used quietly at night. Elias searched archives and spoke with former colleagues. He found records of a test program in the region from decades before. The program did not mention aliens. It was a human research file about new flight tech, but it used strict secrecy and odd testing times. At the end of his search, Elias did not find a single answer that fit all his experience. The recorded blip matched the flight path of a test craft, but the fuzzy memory and the mark on his arm did not have a clear explanation in the files. Elias chose a gentle way to live with the unknown. He shared his clip with neighbours, who joined in small community checks of the sky. He put his notes into a folder and left the question open. His story did not settle the debate, but it became a living example of how a single case can point in both directions. Elias kept looking without letting certainty close his mind. Stories like Elias's remind us that many cases resist neat labels. Some reports have physical traces that invite scientific tests. Others have details that match known sleep or memory phenomena. A careful approach asks for more kinds of evidence than memory alone. Medical reports from the same time, photographs or recordings, physical samples that can be tested, radar or instrument logs, and independent witness statements. When multiple lines of evidence point in the same direction, a claim grows stronger. When evidence pulls apart, we stay in a space of doubt and curiosity. There is also a moral question here. How we answer the great question shapes how we treat people who tell their stories. If we quickly label someone as deluded or as a liar, we add harm to whatever they already carry. If we accept every claim without tests, we risk spreading fear or falsehoods. The balanced path is to listen with kindness, check with care, and ask for evidence in ways that respect the person's dignity. That way, we can learn while holding people safe. Consider too the philosophical layer. These stories touch on the most human of questions. Are we alone? How do we respond when our neat maps of the world fail? Abduction narratives force us to face our need for meaning and our fear of being small in a vast universe. Whether the cause is alien or human, the deepest lesson may be about how we meet the unknown. Do we meet it with fear and blame, or with curiosity and compassion? That question is as important as any technical answer. There is also a comforting thought. Not all mystery needs to be solved for life to be full. Some experiences can remain unanswered and still be meaningful. The open question can be a kind of wide window, letting mystery in without demanding control. That does not mean we stop investigating. It means we allow room for wonder while we search for facts. As this chapter winds down, let your breath slow and your shoulders relax. The great question does not require a single final word tonight. Instead, it invites a patient method. Gather evidence, ask careful questions, and treat witnesses with care. We will continue to explore many directions in the chapters to come. Scientific tests, personal stories, cultural threads, and the slow work of archives and records. Each path adds a piece to the larger picture. For now, rest in the idea that holding two possibilities is a kind of wisdom. Be open to being surprised. Keep a soft curiosity about the world and a gentle heart for those who carry strange nights with them. Chapter 11. Tests, Traces, and the Search for Proof. We move now into a quieter room of careful work, the place where people look for hard signs, the small marks and strange bits that can be tested in a lab. This chapter asks what kind of proof is possible, what counts as good evidence, and why clear answers are so often hard to find. We will go slowly and calmly, because the tools of science move in small steps. breathe gently as we walk through the kinds of traces people look for and what those traces can and cannot tell us. Many who report strange nights want something simple and strong, a physical trace that can be shown and tested. They imagine a piece of metal from a craft, a mark on the skin that a doctor can explain, or a clear photograph that proves what happened. Those hopes are understandable. A physical thing feels solid and true in a way that memory sometimes does not. Scientists too prefer physical traces because they can be measured, repeated and compared. The problem is that such traces are rare, and when they do appear, they are often small and unclear. One of the most common kinds of trace is a mark on the body. People wake to find small scars, bruises or tiny round marks. Some take those marks to doctors, who may record them in a chart. A medical record can be very helpful because it creates a dated note made by a trained observer. But marks can be caused by many things: insect bites, skin conditions, a bump in the night, or a reaction to medication. A single mark rarely tells the whole story. That is why careful cases look for more than one sign. A mark paired with a fresh soil sample, a time-stamped photograph, or medical test done close to the event becomes more meaningful. Small metal fragments are another kind of trace people sometimes claim. A person might find a tiny bit of unusual metal in a field, or a family might keep a sliver pulled from a wound. Those bits can be sent to a lab for testing. A good lab will test what the metal is made of, what it is mixed with, and whether it shows signs of human workmanship. Clear, unusual results can be intriguing, but even metal needs a good story to stand on. Where was it found? Who handled it? Was it preserved cleanly? Chain of custody matters. When evidence passes through many hands without careful records, its value drops because contamination or misplacement can happen. Radiation and unusual chemical traces are sometimes reported. A witness might say their clothing showed strange burn marks, or a patch of ground registered odd readings on a Geiger counter. When specialists test for radiation or chemicals, they look for patterns and levels that cannot be explained by normal sources. Again, these tests can be slow and expensive, and their results may be caused by local industry, old waste, or natural minerals. The goal of science in these moments is not to prove belief, but to find clear, repeatable facts that anyone can check. Photos and videos are the kind of trace most people think of first. A short clip on a phone can capture a strange light or shape, but images lie in small ways all the time. Motion blur, lens flare, and low light can change a shape into something that looks odd. That does not mean images are useless. When multiple, independent recordings show the same event from different angles, or when a clip is accompanied by radar tracks or independent witness notes, the case grows stronger. Small, careful habits help. Always note the time and location. Keep the original file. Avoid editing, and ask others to describe what they saw without showing them the clip first. Those simple steps build the trustworthiness of a recording. Radar and instrument logs are another kind of test that can be very helpful. Pilots and air traffic systems sometimes record objects that do not fit normal flight patterns. A radar blip that matches a ground witness report can be a strong piece of evidence, but radar data can also be noisy or misread. Weather conditions, birds, atmospheric effects, and instrument glitches can show up as strange returns. That is why experts often look for multiple instrument confirmations. Radar, satellite, and human observation together make a stronger case than anyone alone. Good science also cares deeply about method. A single odd result is a start, not an end. Scientists look for repeatable patterns. Can the finding be seen again under the same conditions? Can other labs test the sample and get the same result? Without replication, a result is only a single voice. Replication builds a chorus. That cautious, patient work is not flashy, but it is how lasting knowledge grows. Chain of custody and careful record-keeping are quiet heroes in the search for proof. If someone finds a small sample, the best path is simple. Do not touch it with bare hands, place it in a clean container, label it with the date and location, and take it to a trusted lab or medical professional. Write down what you remember about the moment in as much simple detail as possible. The time, the weather, who was there, and what you felt. These small notes become the map that helps researchers follow where the item came from and how it was treated. Let me share a small story to bring these ideas closer to life. A nurse named Lila found a small, smooth fragment on the edge of a field near her home. It caught her eye because it did not look like the usual bits of trash that scatter the land. She put it in a clean jar, wrote down the date, and called a friend who knew a local university lab. The friend suggested keeping the fragment untouched and taking photos with a scale next to it. Lila did this, and then handed the jar to a lab tech who agreed to run simple tests. The lab found an alloy that included metals in a mix Lila had never seen in common farm tools. They warned her that the sample might have been part of many things: a modern sensor, a scrap from a new device, or simply material transported by wind. Lila felt both hopeful and unsure. The lab's report did not prove a great secret, but because she had stored the fragment carefully and recorded her steps, the sample became a piece that could be checked further by other labs if needed. Lila's calm, careful action made a small but real contribution to knowledge. Her story shows how simple, careful steps help more than dramatic claims. Finally, science values humility. A lab report that says inconclusive is not failure. It is a sign that more careful work is needed, and that the world does not always give quick answers. People who seek proof often feel pressing need for certainty, but the patient work of testing, retesting, and replicating is what slowly builds clear knowledge. As this chapter closes, imagine a neat table with a small jar, a stack of notes, and a camera beside it. The items are quiet and small. They are not proof by themselves, but they are the seeds of proof. If you ever find something unusual, remember Lila's gentle actions. Preserve, record, and seek careful help. The next chapters will move into the lives of people who carry these memories every day, and how communities and healers can help them find peace whether or not clear proof appears.